Good evening, I'm Britt Clennett in Hong Kong and welcome to ViewTV News. Coming up on tonight's show. Chief Executive Carrie Lam delivers her blueprint for Hong Kong, confirming major land and housing initiatives, including an artificial island off Lantau. Striking a family-friendly tone, the CE says she'll give working mothers more paid time off by increasing maternity leave to 14 weeks. ICAC charges pro-Beijing activist Letitia Lee over misuse of election funds during her failed LegCo bid back in 2016. All right, first up tonight, the Chief Executive once again kept it brief when delivering her policy address at the Legislative Council this morning. In less than an hour, Carrie Lam confirmed that reclamation and brownfield sites will be used to boost the city's land supply to build more homes. She also listed out changes to benefit employees and businesses. Evelyn Leung begins our coverage.
Short and to the point. That's how Chief Executive Carrie Lam kept her policy address this year. As expected, land supply was one of the main priorities. Lam announced a new reclamation project under which around 1,700 hectares of land will be developed to make way for up to 400,000 homes. These artificial islands will be built near Khao Yi Chau and Hailing Chau in the Central Waters, North Lantau, as well as the coastal areas of Two Moon. The government will also be speeding up studies on turning brownfield sites in the new territories into housing.
It is the government's responsibility to provide decent housing for families in different income brackets. During my term in office, I will increase the ratio of public housing and allocate more land for public housing development.
This means increasing the ratio of public-private housing in new development projects from 60-40 to 70-30. The CE also confirmed plans to revitalize industrial buildings to build transitional housing to meet the short-term housing demand. Another policy Lam touched on was scrapping the MPF offsetting mechanism. The government will extend its subsidy to businesses from 12 to 25 years to help them deal with the extra financial burden. This will increase government spending from about 17 billion to 29.3 billion Hong Kong dollars. On the topic of employees, maternity leave will be increased from 10 to 14 weeks. The government said it would cover some of the extra costs that come along with the change. In addition to workers, Carrie Lam mentioned giving local businesses a hand if they are affected by global uncertainties, including rising US-China tensions.
但與此同時，香港充滿發展嘅機遇。
Meanwhile, Hong Kong is full of development opportunities. The HKSAR government will act proactively, strengthen our roles in serving as facilitator and promoter, and seize the opportunities brought by the Belt and Road Initiative and the Greater Bay Area development, with a view to generating new impetus for our economy.
During her speech, the CE also mentioned the sensitive issue of independence advocacy.
We will fearlessly take action against such acts according to the law, in order to safeguard the interest of the country and Hong Kong, to nip the problem in the bud. We have also reinforced, among all sectors, understanding of the Constitution, the basic law, and national security, and foster an awareness of one country in the community.
Stressing that the city is highly regarded and envied by many, Carrie Lam ended her report by saying there is still hope for Hong Kong. Evelyn Leung, ViewTV News.
The CE's big day was met with protests as well. Several groups seized the moment to convey their demands ahead of the LegCo address. The Alliance for Universal Pensions showed up to urge Lam to implement a retirement protection scheme for all. Elsewhere, Green groups cried foul over the massive Lantau reclamation plan, calling it a snub to public opinion. Inside the LegCo chamber, a dozen pro-democracy lawmakers took the opportunity to protest against the visa denial of Financial Times journalist Victor Mallet. They stood up and chanted as Lam walked into the hall. 8 of them then stormed out of the room on their own accord. LegCo President Andrew Leung called security guards to escort Claudia Mo, Ray Chan and Eddie Chu away.
The way she's been talking about it, it's almost like in a thuggish way that according to international practice, we don't need to give them any explanation, and this is just not right. She's practically turning Hong Kong into a Mickey Mouse city when it comes to defending our press freedom and our core values.
Or to dig a little deeper into some of the newer policy initiatives, earlier I spoke with producer Diane, who also gave us details about one other major announcement, the full ban on electronic smoking devices.
Yeah, that one is sort of a more unexpected move. And Carrie Lam herself admitted in her news conference afterwards that she has done a U-turn, really, against her own administration's policy decision to only regulate these devices and to restrict the sale to minors only. And now her point is that it's important to make bold moves as a strong government to protect her people, to protect especially young people's health. Now, the ban actually covers the imports, manufacture, sale, distribution and advertisement of e-cigarettes and other new smoking products. Now, Carrie Lam said her and Sophia Chan, that's the Food and Health Secretary, they read up lots on this issue. They saw that more than 20 countries and places have already banned these smoking devices, and that's why they eventually decided to issue this full ban. Now, a big concern, of course, that it's going to push these devices into the black market, right? Make it more popular in the black market rather than being regulated normally. And that's the line taken by the lobby groups like the Coalition on Tobacco Affairs. But another interesting argument that I saw was that we're not entirely clear about the health risks on these devices, right? But we do know about the health risks of actual smoking. So why ban this one rather than full-on cigarettes, full stop? But the counter-argument is that because these are still new devices, like smoking cigarettes is already so widespread, it's very difficult to just slap a ban entirely on it when people are addicted. You know, you have a lot of issues dealing with that. But health experts are saying this is still new, it's not so widespread, so it's better to nip it in the bud while we can. And of course, this policy has been very much welcomed by health groups across Hong Kong, and they're actually calling for speedy legislation of the smoking ban.
Well, one thing Carrie Lam didn't push ahead with is any sort of major move in terms of political development. Pro-Beijing lawmakers from the DAB voiced their disappointment, saying she could have been stronger in pushing for the enactment of the national security legislation, Basic Law Article 23. In her speech, Lam only repeated the government's stance of having a constitutional responsibility to enact the law without giving details. As for election reform, Lam said she understands young people's aspirations for a one-person, one-vote system to choose the CE, but added reality may be in the way.
In short, my position remains more or less the same. I will still try to create the necessary environment for us to undertake this highly contentious subject. But as you can see, it's not always possible for the chief executive to attain that objective.
Among the 244 initiatives Carrie Lam proposed, some have been welcomed while others are facing harsh criticism. Pro-establishment lawmakers approved the CE's effort to boost development in the technology and science field, including securing funds for local scientists. Pan-Dem legislators, though, think the Lantau reclamation plan is too risky.
She has also secured the central government's approval to allow central government's funding to be channeled to local scientists. You know. So the latest announcement is in the same direction and is to be welcome.
We never had such a huge amount of money being invested for a single project, but now we talk about almost 100% of our government service. So to us, we simply believe it is a big gamble.
All right, moving on to some other local news now. Pro-Beijing activist Letitia Lee has been charged by the ICAC over the suspected misuse of election funds during her failed LegCo bid in 2016. The 54-year-old is accused of violating anti-bribery laws by failing to ensure her campaign followed spending rules surrounding anonymous donations. Lee received more than $22,500 from 9 unknown donors, each donation worth more than $1,000. Election laws require candidates to give away any anonymous donations exceeding $1,000 to charities. Now, Lee is on bail and will appear at the Sheraton Magistracy on Friday. In other news, more charges have been brought against a K&B driver accused of causing one of Hong Kong's deadliest road accidents. 19 people were killed and 60 others injured in the crash along Tai Po Road in February. Chan Ho Ming has now been charged with 19 counts of manslaughter and 18 counts of dangerous driving causing grievous bodily harm. The 30-year-old was originally only given 1 count of dangerous driving causing death. The case will be tried at the High Court at a later date. All right, 2 people were bitten by a wild boar at a public housing estate in Wong Tai Sin this morning. The boar attacked a 65-year-old security guard on her arm and leg. It also apparently rammed a 79-year-old man, knocking him to the ground before biting his leg. Both people were sent to hospital for treatment. A 3rd person injured himself on the head while trying to run away. All right, now time for a break now, but do stay with us. Coming up, China's just announced the legislation of so-called re-education camps in Xinjiang over a month after denying they exist. More details on that in just a bit.